All right, welcome to Preview Day of Leadership Labs. I am so excited that you guys decided to help us get this feel for what Leadership Labs are going to be like. My name is Emily Crash, and I am on the leadership development team of the conference with working with emerging leaders. And we are going to talk a little bit about what it actually means that we're working with emerging leaders. And to do that, I want to show you guys this little video that just got finished that gives us an understanding of what emerging leaders is, all right? First Timothy 4:12 says, "Don't let anyone look down on you because you were young, but set an example for the believers in speech, in conduct, in love, in faith, and in purity." And we at the Indiana Conference of the United Methodist Church believe that young people have the ability to set that example. We believe that emerging leaders are not just the church of the future, but we believe they're the church of today. And we want them to know that we believe they are called and that they have a mission and that God is at work, allowing them to live out that mission even right now and into the future.
God has helped shape me into a leader by providing amazing opportunities for me over the years. From singing in the church to being a presenter at the United Methodist Conference, everything He's done has worked to shape me into who I am today.
It makes me excited since I get to help out in certain church activities and be a leader for the United Methodist Church.
The leadership of the next generation is really important because for us to keep the church of tomorrow alive, we have to build really strong leaders today.
Being a leader on the Emerging Leaders team means a lot to me because it allows me to be a leader for the youth of both my church area and district to the conference. To me, it means great gratitude because knowing that I'm a young age, I'm being heard by a bunch of kids around my area, and knowing that my voice is heard around my area, knowing that I could be a benefit to this world and a benefit to my church and to our church conference. We're young, so we can develop as we go on, and I think that it will be a benefit to our church and to our church conference.
The passion for service in the church can only be led in teens if they are given opportunities to uncover their passion. The church can hope that its students will volunteer for something, but unless us teens are specifically invited, we often assume that we are too young to be in the movement. Students have to be shown that those ministries are about. They have to show what those ministries are about to become passionate about them later in life.
We know that emerging leaders includes children and youth and college students and young adults, and we want you to know that it also involves all those who support emerging leaders as well, whether that means you have a title or not, whether that means you're a volunteer, full-time, part-time, pastor, director, whether you are a parent or a long-term Sunday school teacher. We believe that your support of emerging leaders is significant and is going to help us to be able to grow young people within the Indiana Conference of the United Methodist Church. So even as the video shows, emerging leaders isn't just about what we're doing in one specific area. It's about all the different ways that young people, college students, children, young adults are able to be involved in the church, as well as what it looks like for them to be leaders in the world. And that takes a team of people, and so I'm super grateful that two of the adult leaders who are a part of the Emerging Leaders team are here right now. And so I'm going to let you guys introduce yourselves, since you're also going to help lead us in what it looks like to be a part of the Leadership Lab. I'll let you go first, Sarah.
All right, I'm Sarah Campbell, and I'm the Director of Youth and Children's Ministries at Columbus First.
I'm Suzanne Yunker, and I'm the Pastor of Family Ministries at Old Bethel United Methodist Church on the east side of Indianapolis.
So, one of the cool things also about Leadership Labs is that, again, it's going to happen in many different areas throughout the state. And so, again, Suzanne and Sarah are also representing the fact that in their areas, they're going to be a part of also the Leadership Lab leadership team that will offer leadership labs at their churches as hosts and as guides for us to be able to learn a little bit more about what that looks like.
So in order to really delve into why you need a leadership lab, you have to be able to understand why leadership is important to anyone. So anyone have any wonderful answers to share about what are some characteristics of a thriving ministry leader?
They're a good listener. They listen.
They think out of the box.
They entertain all ideas, not just their own.
That's great. That's huge. So one of the reasons that we're offering these leadership labs is because I think there's a lot of benefit to community, to fellowship, to being able to make connections with other people, develop leadership, provide mentorship, and these labs will be able to help meet some of those needs. The leaders in our conference need opportunities to be able to grow as leaders, no matter what their role, whether they're paid staff or volunteer, full-time, part-time, whatever situation they're in. We can all thrive when we're together and learning and growing from each other and sharing our wisdom and experience.
All right, so what is a leadership lab? First of all, it's an opportunity for intentional interaction. So we all know what it's like to grab coffee with a friend in ministry and never really get to the guts of the matter. And so this allows you that opportunity to be intentional in your conversation, allows you to connect with ministry leaders in your area, and it's an opportunity for you to personally grow in your relationship with Jesus Christ. And so it is a beautiful time. So here's sort of the nuts and bolts. There'll be over 2 months, 4 meetings, 1 in person, a small group between 5 and 10 people. So the first meeting will be an on-site meeting, and then the next month will be an online, and then the next month online, and the final meeting an on-site. And so that is sort of how it's structured as far as what you would experience if you chose to be a part of this intentional small group. Again, with the idea that you're connecting with one another and growing spiritually.
So for this first experience, you can see that, just as Suzanne just explained, that there's going to be 4 different meetings, 4 different opportunities for people to be able to be a part of a leadership lab. And what I want to share with you is that this very first expression is called Finding Your Spark. And the thing that I'm super excited about with Finding Your Spark is the scripture that has been the foundation of it, which is 2 Timothy 1, 6-10, which says, "And the special gift of ministry you received when I laid hands on you and prayed, keep that ablaze. God doesn't want us to be shy with his gifts, but bold and loving and sensible. So don't be embarrassed to speak up for our master or for me, his prisoner. Take your share of suffering for the message along with the rest of us. We can only keep on going, after all, by the power of God, who first saved us and then called us to this holy work. We had nothing to do with it. It was all his idea, a gift prepared for us in Jesus long before we knew anything about it. But we know it now. Since the appearance of our Savior, nothing could be plainer. Death defeated, life vindicated in a steady blaze of light, all through the work of Jesus." And so I share that scripture with you because that is going to be the foundation of this first expression of leadership labs that meet together in these small groups. And I'm going to break it down for you. I'll give you the 4 pieces, and then we'll each say just a little bit about that. So the first one is called Ignite, which means we're going to talk about calling. The second one is called Flame. We're going to talk about saying yes. The third one is called Fire, which we're going to talk about servant leadership. And then the fourth one is called Burn, which we're going to talk about what it means to go. So that gives you some content around what we're going to talk about when we get together in the leadership labs. And so the very first one, even calling, I want to invite this group that was willing to be with us for preview day, if you would, think a little bit about this. What does it look like when a person has forgotten their calling or they're ignoring their calling? Anybody?
Tired. You're tired?
Tired.
Burned out.
Burned out. What else?
It's like walking in, like almost through like a corn maze, you know, to where you're like, all right, I know that like I can kind of see, riff, and like there's a, you know, I'm in creation, but do I take left? Do I take right? You know, something like that, or like a dark room that you're trying to find the light switch. You know what I mean? Like, you know, and you're going about it that way. That's what I say.
It's a really good thought.
Lack of enthusiasm.
Lack of enthusiasm. Anything else?
Lack of direction.
So the reality is, I get a feeling that we can relate to that. And if there's some of you who are out there who are tuning in with us on Facebook Live, we want to encourage you that if you have thoughts to go along with some of these conversations that we're going to have, we're going to keep them brief, but if you want to chime in and you have a thought that goes along with what we're saying, feel free to do so. Kind of join in with us on that as well. So what then does it look like when a person has been like reignited in their calling? Have you ever seen that or experienced that where somebody's like reignited in their calling? Wow, I love the smiles I saw when I asked that. What do you guys think of?
Pastor, when a kid thinks that he doesn't have anything else to offer and you bring him something, a project or something, he's just on the world again. It's a good thing.
Awesome.
You've dedicated, you have purpose again. And so you're excited about what you're doing and you're able to go down that path a lot easier. You're out of the corn maze.
Right. Yeah, it's like receiving that halftime speech, you know, like that you've been down all day, and like I love nothing more than just like a team come running out of the tunnel or whatever, and you're like, oh yeah, here we go. Like, you know, and so as a fan, you're just like, yeah, they're like it's gonna happen right now. Like, here we go. So that's what I see.
I'm at the beginning of my calling, so it's really new and still so exciting. And the person that I brought down here from the youth, he's at his beginning, so it's all good and exciting for us. But it's all important for me to know all these other feelings, and I'm sure that I will be experiencing. But I'm still at the beginning.
And I love this because that's what doing a leadership lab is going to be all about. We're talking for all of a couple minutes about it. Can you imagine if we each had the time then in a leadership lab to share those stories? Because like I said, the facial expressions and the descriptions that we've just shared, it's obvious that we could continue that conversation about when it has been difficult and when it's been reignited. So that's what we're going to do in leadership labs. The second one is flame.
So flame is about saying yes and saying no. And sometimes saying yes can be this amazing, wonderful experience, but sometimes it can be really scary too. And that's not unique to us today. The same thing happened to countless prophets in the Bible, right? They had lots of excuses and weaknesses that they would give as to why they weren't saying yes. And I think sometimes we do the same. So where is it hard for you to say yes to God as a leader? And what might happen if you did say yes?
I mean, anything out of your comfort zone is going to cause you to hesitate before you say yes. So,
Definitely.
Yeah. So it all depends on where you're at and what you're comfortable doing and what you're not comfortable doing. But you know that if it's outside your comfort zone, it's something you're supposed to say yes to.
Absolutely. Just as important is being able to say no. And I think sometimes for me personally, saying no is really difficult because I feel like maybe that would be a great plan. Let's try it. And so what does it feel like when you maybe should say yeah or should say no, but you quickly say yes?
Yeah, it's like you know, kind of deal. Like,
Right. Absolutely. So the third time together, we're going to talk about servant leadership. We know that Jesus, that's how he served. That was the model of how he served. We know at the very end, when he was up in the upper room, he washed the feet of the very people that were going to betray him, lie to him, run. And so, not only then, right, Jesus also was all the time explaining to the Pharisees why he was doing things this new way. And so in ministry, you are going to hit difficult people and difficult obstacles. You might try something and it might fail miserably. And what does it mean to be the people God has called us to be brave in those situations? And so I want to talk to you a little bit about, what do you think servant leadership looks like today?
that you're no bigger than your program.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that your program is like your program is bigger than you. Like, is what I mean. Like, yeah, that it's not the name with it. It's not anything like that. That, you know, at the end of the day, it's God's. So you are second.
I think it's just anytime you're just there for your students. I heard an illustration once that, you know, every time after a middle school youth group that you're on the floor picking up pop balloons or whatever, that's the same thing as washing their feet. And so there's so many different ways that we're washing the feet of our students just by doing the simple things, just by being there week after week after week and showing up for them.
That's awesome to think a little bit more. We were just talking with some students today about what is humility, and that's what I think of when you think of servant leadership, because you're still using your gifts and your abilities, and you're not hiding those in any way, shape, or form, but you're using them as a means of service as opposed to like for power or for yourself. It's all about the person that you're serving, and then ultimately the fact that you're serving God, because let's face it, sometimes we feel unappreciated or misunderstood or whatever the case may be, right? And so when you know you're doing it because you're serving God, it makes all the difference. So then the fourth part, this will be the fourth meeting that you would have in the leadership lab, would be burn, which means go. And this will be an opportunity, hopefully after you have talked through with your group these three other areas, to think a little bit more about, how do I live with that fire of God, the Spirit living inside me in such a way that I know that it's Him that's burning inside of me and I'm living that out. So my question for you guys is, when was the last time you felt that burning fire of being sent by God into a situation or into a ministry?
I feel every time after a mission trip, like, it's that immersion, it's that, you know, I don't have my normal sense around me, and so, you know, working that language of like, it doesn't stop when we get off the plane, it doesn't stop whenever the bus pulls into the parking lot, but like, it's this continuation, and, you know, and I think a lot of it is that immersion, that it's not you're not going home to your comfy bed, you're not, you know, like, everything about it is, you know, comfort zone. I think somebody, you know, said comfort zone earlier, so that's all day, every day.
Any other thoughts? It's interesting because sometimes that fire comes, like you just described, Josh, after an experience, and yet you're exhausted all at the same time. Have you guys experienced that? It's like you're exhausted by it, but you still feel that burning passion. And I think that's why we want to talk about this in leadership labs, because when you are truly living out your calling, it doesn't mean that you won't have hard time saying no or yes. It doesn't mean that you won't encounter difficult people and have trouble kind of grabbing a hold of serving, but it does mean that you're going to have this fire inside of you that allows you to go when it is uncomfortable. And the reason we're doing it in the environment of let's do this together with 5 to 10 people is because we know it takes chatting it out with each other sometimes, right? Connecting to each other and encouraging each other for that to be able to be a possibility. So, again, we just sat down and started chatting out these questions, but you can imagine if you're sitting with a group of people, or even if you're online having that conversation, it's going to give us that opportunity to go even deeper into those 4 areas, and that's the content that you would experience in a leadership lab.
So the first 3 labs that are planned, right? So,
yeah, we have 3 pilot labs.
And there'll be one in Columbus first, and those are the 3 dates. The first 2, the Saturday dates, for all 3 of them will be the face-to-face, and then the Thursday dates, Thursdays for Columbus first. I believe it's
It's Saturdays and Thursdays for
Thursdays will be the phone, online video kind of thing.
Yep, absolutely.
So Columbus first, then Indianapolis. Will be Indianapolis. That's true. And then the third location is Fort Wayne at Covenant UMC.
Yeah. So again, if you're on Facebook with us, or you're watching this at some point later, the good news is also for all of us here, since we just flashed that on the screen really quickly, those dates are all going to be posted right after this so that you know. And what I would encourage you to know is that if you don't live in Fort Wayne or Indianapolis or Columbus, a couple different things. Number one, this is just the beginning. We'll continue to do leadership labs in other areas. There's going to be opportunities for us to kind of gain some insight from this, but also it's okay if you decide that, hey, I'm not in that city, but I really want to be a part of this, and you're willing to drive 40 minutes, you're willing to take a little bit of a drive to be a part of it. It's not like you have to live in that city to be a part of that leadership lab. So we would encourage you, if you're interested and you want to be a part of it, and you just know right now that you need that connection, and this is that moment for you to grow in that leadership ability, this is a great thing for you. So I want to tell you how to sign up to participate, but actually even before I do that, I want to ask this group, because we happen to just be a collective group who said, yeah, sure, we'll be here, we'll be a part of this conversation. You're hanging out at Student Leadership Academy, and even just in this group, how many of you are volunteers and you don't get paid to do any kind of anything within your church, but you're here and you're hanging out as a volunteer? All right, look at this. So we have volunteers. We have anybody who's part-time serving in ministry. So we have part-time, full-time that's being, okay, so we have some full-time paid, long-term volunteer Sunday school teacher. Did I miss something? That you're a director, a teacher in that category? You would put yourself. Got it. I simply wanted to do that to share. That's the kind of group that we see happening. This isn't just for people who are being paid in the church to do full-time ministry, but it is for them. It's also not just for those who are volunteers, but it is for them. It's, I think, a conversation around leadership that will be beneficial to all of us, as you can see from the ability that we all had to think about it a little bit. So how, if you decide you want to be a part of a leadership lab, can you participate? How do you get in on that? I will again make sure this information is going to be up on the Emerging Leaders Facebook page right away. It will also be on the website for the Indiana Conference under Emerging Leaders. And the first thing you're just going to want to do is contact Darlene White, who is on the leadership development team at the Indiana Conference, and email her, give her a call to be able to sign up, and you're simply going to share your name and what city you would like to participate in, as in Columbus, Fort Wayne, or Indianapolis, and the best contact phone number if you're sending her in an email, just in case we need to get in touch with you in that way. And if we fill them up really quickly, then we will start a waiting list, and we'll let you know, because we are going to keep them intentionally small. We are going to make sure that there are no more than 10 people in each leadership lab as it meets together.
So I'm going to share this scripture with you from Esther. Sorry.
Another awesome woman.
You know, chapter 4, verse 14. For if you keep silent at this time, relief and deliverance will rise for the Jews from another place, but you and your father's house will perish. And who knows whether you have not come to the kingdom for such a time as this. And so we invite you to prayerfully consider if this is the time. If this is the time for you to take time to connect and to grow in your faith. We've experienced as a part of SLE in general and a part of this preview that we are better together. And that means that we can learn from one another and that we need to know that we're not alone. And so I encourage you to pray, to think about if this is the time. We are all busy people, and sometimes we want to say, oh, like one more thing. But I think that one more thing, when it means that we're growing closer to God and we're connecting to God's people, is right and holy. And so think about if this is the time for you to say yes, and then sign up and do the steps that Emily's talked about. Also, I was supposed to say this. What? I forgot. Because I get excited about it, so that Emily's already stated it, but I just think like a beautiful God-sized dream for the conference would be that there would be one of these in every single district, that we would have people who would rise up as leaders, who are leading other leaders. And so if you are further south in the state or way up north in the state and you're like, these are still far away, I would encourage you to flood Emily's mailbox. Sorry, I said it in front of her, to let her know, like, this is such a great idea, but unfortunately it's not the time, but I want you to know it's still something that I'm excited about, so that she knows and has feedback that this is something that you would be a part of.
Again, the two words that stick out to me that I think we've heard, and I love it because even as you all discussed in these few moments that we've had, the fact that we need to grow and we need to keep growing wherever we're at on that journey, right? And that connection is important. The connecting with each other is going to make all the difference as we are in that process of growth. So my hope, my dream, is that Leadership Labs would be that opportunity to have that connection and that growth experience together, where we're allowed to speak and share, as well as to be open to what it is that God is doing within our own leadership experiences. So I would invite you all that are here, that we're willing to be a part of our discussion, to kind of demonstrate what it is going to be all about, certainly to be thinking about it, like Suzanne said, as well as those who have joined us at some point in time, to be able to consider it and let us know. And we'll continue to put information up on the Emerging Leaders Facebook page, as well as within the conference, so that you know how you can be a part of a leadership lab for sure. Will you pray us out, Suzanne?
I would love to. God, thank you so much for time spent together, where we are not finished. You have created us for a purpose, and you love us enough to continue to make us more and more the people you have created us to be. And so as we go from this place and we go back to our routines in our lives, may we consider what it means to continue to grow as a leader, and may we take advantage of any resources that we can have. God, it's not just about being a leader for the sake of our name, but it being a leader for the sake of your name, that others might come to know you and be transformed by your love.
Amen. Awesome. Thank you for joining us, and thank you guys for being a part of the conversation.
Thank you.
Awesome.